So where do we stand now? Well, Tony Cheng joins us now from Thailand with a progress report. Tony, Phuket and Khao Lak were amongst the most devastated areas in Thailand. You're in Khao Lak now. How are things looking?
Well, Thailand is something of a success story. It was very badly hit. Phuket, one of the main tourist destinations in this country, suffered some pretty severe damage, but particularly down on this coast, the coast of Pangar on the Andaman Sea, here in Khao Lak, where some of the newer resorts were, there was complete devastation. I was here 10 years ago, and it was just rubble. It was amazing. Some of the hotels have been completely washed away. The Thai government was very keen, some would say perhaps a little too keen, to get back as quickly as they possibly could, but they did it. They had a lot of help from the international community. They did also rebuild the communities, though, one of which we went to a little further down the coast, a town called Baan, Khem. At the time, it was a town of about 5,000 people, mainly fishermen. After the tsunami, 2,000 of those people had been killed.
10 years has passed in the blink of an eye for Ampan Pechnoi. Her home in the fishing village of Baan Khem was right in the path of the tsunami. She never wanted to move away afterwards like many did, but the memories of that morning have never faded. When the wave hit, she was at home with her daughter.
I was drowning in the water, holding my daughter. She managed to climb over the roof, but I couldn't. I thought I would die.
The memories are still overpowering. Her husband died and many of her friends. Her home was destroyed. But she remarried to another survivor, and her family has thrived.
The government asked me if I wanted anything, but the only thing I wanted was an education for my daughter.
The village has also survived, although it's much changed. Once home to more than 5,000 people, they still don't know exactly how many people died here. But this was the hardest hit community on the coast of Thailand. Mostly it's a memory, although some reminders have been left in place.
These plaques commemorate some of those who died in the tsunami in the Khao Lak area. And when I came down here as a journalist, the devastation was unbelievable, far worse than we found when we first arrived in Phuket. At that time, it would have been understandable if most of the residents had decided to leave, to try and forget everything that had happened. But many chose to stay, and over the last decade, they've rebuilt their town and their shattered lives.
Memorials here too to the foreign victims. Almost as many foreigners died as Thais. A little further down the coast in Khao Lak, a memorial is being built to commemorate 10 years since the tsunami. This will be the focal point for the 2014 anniversary events. At the Hands Across the Water orphanage, built to accommodate children who lost everything in the tsunami, the 26th will be a muted day.
The children who are bigger, they will never forget, never, because they love their family so much, and then they lost their family, and every year when the Mother Day and Memorial Day, they'll be very sad.
But the children who grew up here have also thrived. Many have gone on to university and beyond. And the community, while it hasn't forgotten, has now moved on.
Well, we've seen celebrations almost, commemorations certainly, and one mother I spoke to who lost 2 of her children said it was a celebration of the lives of those people who were lost in the disaster. All along the coast, some private and personal, others more public, like the one that they're packing up behind me. But it's 10 years now, and the message that we got from most of the people we spoke to was that it was a terrible disaster, but things have moved on and they are looking very much to the future.
Right, Tony, Thailand's tourism and fishing sectors were devastated by the tsunami. 10 years on, has there been much economic recovery, particularly in those areas?
Absolutely, and this was what the Thai government very much focused on. They wanted to get that tourist industry back again. They've done so very much in Phuket. Within about a year of the tsunami, happening. They had got most of their numbers back. The numbers dropped by about 15% in the first year. Not surprisingly, people are very apprehensive about going back to those areas, but they've come back and Phuket has boomed. Here in Khao Lak, things have been a little bit slow. It took quite a long time for many of these resorts to rebuild, but they did so. They got the loans that they needed, and they were able to completely rebuild and rebuild better, they said. One hotel owner we spoke to said that she was now confident that if a disaster like that hit again, she would be able to provide much better safety for her guests. She was slightly critical of the government, saying that they could practice their drills a bit more. She'd like to see a little bit more efficiency. But that said, again, tourists that we spoke to are accepting of the fact that this was a disaster that was 1 in a million. It's highly unlikely to happen again.
All right. We'll end it on that encouraging note. Thank you so much, Tony Cheng, live for us in Thailand.